एवरीवन, वेलकम बैक टू आवर यूट्यूब चैनल। और आज का जो हम टॉपिक करेंगे वो है फंडामेंटल राइट्स पार्ट 2। सो हम आज जो हमने वहाँ पे फिनिश करी थी लास्ट वीडियो, हम उसके बाद से स्टार्ट करेंगे। बिफोर दैट, अनअकैडमी यूपीएससी चैंपियनशिप 2.0 is providing you with all India free mock test series under UPSC CSE Prelims 2020 to 21 paper 1 JS. You will also get a golden opportunity to meet with the UPSC CSE 2019 toppers, top Unacademy educators, and subscription scholarship also. And this was conducted on 30th August, September, 30th September, 20th September, and 27th September. As we know that exams are scheduled for next month, so if you want to brush up some of your concept or you want to clear your doubt, then you can complete your preparation under UPSC CSE 2020 with Unacademy. This one subscription has like unlimited benefits, like you can learn from your home, you have unlimited access to all courses, we have top educators on one platform, full syllabus coverage, double doubt clearing session, live test series, study material will be provided to you in the form of PDF format, answer writing session under our mentor and guidance. This is also like a one-stop solution, like to complete UPSC CSE preparation for structured batches with top educators, batches in Hindi, English, bilingual, late night as well as 2-year batches, full 100% syllabus coverage, vast range of optional prelim test series with evaluation main test series, dedicated doubt clearing session, daily current affair practice, answer essay writing practice, performance analysis also will be provided to every student, and will also guide you for your interview preparation also. So this will help you, every student. This will help every UPSC aspirant. Now we have like 4 complete batch courses that are starting from 21st September 2020. So you have we have from the first batch is bilingual, in which the medium of instruction is in Hindi English both. Second is in Hindi. Third batch is in complete English, and the fourth batch is for the UPSC CSE 20 to 2022, which is also in complete English. So we have like ultimate vision booster prelims batch course, and this is completely free, and we are providing you with this in 2 languages, bilingual and English, for prelims 2020. And this was duration of this booster prelims batch course is from 5th to 30th September 2020. We are providing you with free live classes from Monday to Friday, and in that we'll ask you about the section quizzes we are giving you. And then if you subscribe now, then you will get 10% off. So you just need to apply this simple code SIMPLEYT, and you will get 10% off, and this is a very easy process. Then we are also providing you with the daily current affair test series that is completely free on daily at 7:30 p.m. 20 questions, 20 minutes, and for 40 marks. Along with your test analysis, you will also get to know your percentile with your classmates and the toppers also. So this will help you in long term also. So if you really like our channel, so if you want to join, so you can join it on YouTube, Telegram, or Facebook, in whichever social networking sites you are available on. So let's start with the freedom of speech, our first fundamental right. So it basically implies that every citizen has a right to express his views, opinions, beliefs, and convictions like very freely from the word of mouth, by writing, printing, picturing, or any other form of manner. And the Supreme Court has basically said that the freedom of speech includes the right to propagate one's views as well as views of others, freedom of the press, freedom of commercial advertisement, right against taping of telephonic conversation, right to telecast, right against to be called by a political party, right to know about government activities, freedom of silence, freedom of imposition of free censorship on newspaper, then the right to the demonstration of picketing, but not the right to strike. So the state can impose a reasonable restriction on everyone that can be exercise of the freedom of speech and expression on the ground of sovereignty and integrity of the India. Now let's talk about the freedom of assembly. So as we know that every citizen of a country has this right to assemble peacefully without any arms. That includes the right to hold the public meeting, demonstration, break out processions, and the freedom that has been exercised only by public land and assembly must be peaceful and unarmed. This provision does not protect the violent, disorderly, riotous assemblies, or any one causes of breach in the public space, or one that involves arms. This right does not include the right to strike, and the state can impose reasonable restrictions on the exercise of right of assembly on the ground of sovereignty and integrity and public order, including the maintenance of traffic in the area concerned. Then, under Section 144 of Criminal Procedure Code in 1973, a magistrate can also restrain an assembly meeting for the procession in there is the risk of obstruction or annoyance or the danger of to human life, health, safety, or disturbance of public tranquility or a riot or anything else. So, under Article 141 of Penal Code, as assembly of five or more person can also become unlawful if the object is first to resist the execution of any law or legal process, to forcefully occupy the property of some person, to commit any mischief or criminal trespass, and to force some person to do any illegal act, and to threaten the government and its officials on exercising lawful powers. Now let's talk about the freedom of association. So as we know, the all citizens have the right to form their own association or unions or cooperative societies. It includes the right to form all the political parties, companies, partnership, firms, societies, club, organization, trade unions, or any other form of body of persons. And it is not only includes the right to start an association or the union, but it also to continue with the association or union as such. So further, it also covers the negative right of not only to form or join association or union, but also the reasonable restrictions can be imposed on the exercise of this right by the state on the grounds of sovereignty, integrity, public order, and morality. So this all the subject to all these restrictions are the citizens have complete liberty to form association or unions for pursuing lawful objectives or purposes. But however, the right to obtain all this recognition of the association is not just a fundamental right, but the Supreme Court held the trade unions to have no guaranteed right to effective bargaining or the right to strike or to right to declare a lockout. So the right of strike has been controlled by an appropriate industrial law. Now let's talk about the freedom of movement. So this freedom is basically entitles every citizen to move freely throughout the territory of the country, and he can move freely from one state to another, from one place to another within a state. And this right has underlined the idea of India is one unit so far as the citizens are concerned. Therefore, the purpose is to promote the national feeling and not parochialism. And the grounds of imposing a reasonable restriction on the freedom are basically are two: the interest of general public and the protection of interest of scheduled tribe, and the entry of outside of tribal areas restricted to protect the distinctive culture, language, customs, manners of scheduled tribes, and to safeguard their traditional vocation and the property against exploitation. The Supreme Court also has held that the freedom of movement of prostitute can also be restricted on the ground of public health and in the interest of public morals. And the Bombay High Court validated that the restriction of movement of the person affected by AIDS and the freedom of movement are basically two dimension of internal right to move inside the country and external right to move outside and right to come back. So Article 19 protects only the first dimension. The second dimension is dealt by Article 21 under right to life and personal liberty. Now we have freedom to residence. So every citizen has the freedom to reside or settle in any part. Under two, first that the right to reside in any part, which means the stay of any place temporarily, and the right to settle in any part, which means to set up a home or domicile or any place permanently. This right is intended to removal of internal barriers within the country between any parts, and it promotes nationalism and avoids narrow-mindedness. The state can also impose reasonable instruction on the exercise of the right on two grounds: one, the interest of public and the protection, and the right of Iceland to reside in tribal areas also restricted to protect their distinct culture, custom, value, manners, scheduled right to safeguard their traditional vocation and properties against exploitation. And tribals have been permitted to regulate their own property rights and according to with their customary laws and rules. So the Supreme Court has held this area can be banned by certain kind of person like prostitutes or habitual offenders. From above, it is very clear that the right to reside and the right to movement are basically overlapping to some extent, and both are complementary to each other. Now, the freedom of profession. So, as we know that all citizens are given this right to practice like any profession and carry out any occupation, trade, or business. But this right has been like widely covers to the meaning of earning to one's livelihood. The state can impose reasonable restriction on the exercise of right of interest or general public, and the state is empowered first to prescribe professional technical qualification necessary for practicing any profession, carrying on any occupation like trade, carrying itself on trade, business, industry, and services. And there is like no objection can be made when the state tries to like carries on trade, businesses, industries, or services either or as monopoly completely or to the exclusion of citizen in the competition with any citizen, and the state is not required to just justify the monopoly, but this right does not include the right to carry on a profession or a business that has been there on in that is like immoral or dangerous. So the state can also like absolutely prohibit these, regulate them through licensing. Now let's talk about the protection of convention. So under Article 20 is basically grounds of protection under against the arbitrary and excessive punishment to an accused person, whether the citizen, whether it's a citizen or any foreigner or any legal person in the like a company or corporation. It basically contains like three provisions. First, no ex post facto law. No person shall be like convicted on the offense except for the violation of law enforced at the time of commission act, and is subjected to any penalty greater than prescribed by the law enforced at the time of commission. Then no double jeopardy is basically no person shall be persecuted and punished for the same offense more than once. No self incrimination. No person accused for any offense shall be like compelled to be a witness against himself. And ex post facto law is also one that imposes penalties retrospectively and that it acts upon already done, which increases the penalty for such acts. However, we can see that this limitation is basically imposed only on the criminal laws and not on the civil laws or the tax laws. In other words, we can say a civil is the liability or a tax can be imposed retrospectively. Further, this provision prohibits only the conviction or sentence under the ex post facto criminal law and not the trial. Therefore, finally, the protection of immunity can be done under this provision and not it cannot be claimed in case of preventive detention or demanding security from a person. So the protection against double jeopardy is basically available only in proceedings before a court of law or a judicial tribunal. It is not available in the proceeding before the departmental and administrative authorities, and they are not justiciable in nature. And then this protection against self incrimination can also like extend to both oral evidence and the documentary evidence. However, it does not extend to any compulsory production of material objective, compulsion to give thumb impressions, specimen signature, specimens, and all the compulsory exhibition of body. Further, it extends only criminal proceedings and not just civil proceedings, or proceedings are not basically criminal nature. Now let's talk about protection to life and personal liberty. And Article 21 clearly declares that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except in accordance to the procedure established by law. And this right is like available to both citizens and non-citizens. In the famous case of AK Gopalan case that was there in 1915, so basically the Supreme Court has taken a narrow interpretation of Article 21 and it held that the protection of under Article 21 is available only against arbitrary executive action and not from arbitrary legislative action. This means that the state can deprive the right to life and personal liberty of person based on law, and this is because the expression procedure established by law under Article 21, which is different from the expression due process of law that was contained in American Constitution. Therefore, the validity of this law that has been prescribed a procedure cannot be questioned on the ground of the law that is like completely unreasonable, unfair, and unjust. Therefore, secondly, you can say that the Supreme Court held this personal liberty means a liberty that is like relating to the person and the body of the individual. Now we can see in the second case that is the Menka Gandhi case in 1978. We can see that the Supreme Court overruled its judgment in the Gopalan case for the wider perspective of Article 21. Therefore, it ruled that the right to life and personal liberty of person can be deprived by a law provided in procedure that has been prescribed by the law that is unreasonable, fair, and just. In other words, we can also say it has also like introduced American expression like the due process of law. In effect, to the protection under Article 21 should be available not only against arbitrary executive action but also against arbitrary legislative action. And further, the court has also held that the right to life has been like important part of Article 21, and not just it is merely confined to the animal existence or survival, but also it includes within its ambit of the right to life with human dignity and the existence of survival or the survival. It includes within the ambit of its right to life with human dignity and all the aspects that are required for uh, which makes a man's life very meaningful, complete, and worth living. It has also ruled the expression of personal liberty in Article 21 is also the widest amplitude, and it covers a variety of rights that goes to constitute the personal liberties of a man. Now, the Supreme Court has actually reaffirmed its judgment in Menka Gandhi case, like it has declared the rights under 21: right to life with human dignity, right to decent environment, including pollution-free air protection and everything, right to livelihood, right to privacy, right to shelter, right to health, right to free education, right to free legal aid, right to solitary confinement, right to speedy trial, right to handcuffing, right to inhuman treatment, right to delayed execution, right to travel abroad, right against bonded labor, right against custodial harassment, right against emergency medical aid, right to timely medical treatment in government hospital, right to not to driven out of a state, right to free trial, right to prisoner have necessity of life, right to women to be treated with decency and dignity, right against public hanging, right to hearing, then right to information, right to reputation, right to appeal from a judge of conviction, right to social security or protection, right to social and economic justice empowerment, right to bar fetters, right to appropriate life insurance, or right to sleep, and right to freedom from noise and pollution, right to electricity. Now let's talk about the right to education under the Article 21A. This actually declares that the state shall also like provide free and compulsory education to all children for the age of 6 to 14 years in a manner that state have may determine. Therefore, this provision basically makes only the elementary education very fundamental and not higher or professional education. So this provision was added in the 86th constitutional amendment of 22 uh, of 2002, and this amendment played a very major milestone in a country's aim to achieve education for all. The government described that this step is basically as the dawn of the second revolution in this chapter of citizens' rights. Even like before this amendment, the constitution contained the provision for free and compulsory education for every children under Article 45 in the Part 4. However, being a directive principle, it was not enforceable under the courts, but there is no scope. But there is a scope for judicial intervention in this, and this amendment changed the subject matter that has been there in Article 45 in directive principle. It now reads the state shall endeavor to provide early childhood care and education for every children until they complete the age of 6 years. It was also added a fundamental right under the Article 51A that reads that the duty of every citizen to provide the opportunity of education on child born between age of 6 and 14. And under in 1993, we can also say Supreme Court recognized the fundamental rights of the primary education and right to life under Article 21. It also upheld that it also held that every citizen or every children has a right to free education until the complete age of 14 years. Then this is the right of education that is subject to its limits of economic capacity and development of state. Therefore, the court overruled its early judgment and declared there was a fundamental right to education at any level in professional education like medicine and engineering, and the pursuit and then it can pursue in Article 21A, the Parliament can be enacted the right of children to free and compulsory education under RTE Act 2009. Then this act can also like seek to provide that every children has a right to be provided full-time elementary education for the satisfactory, equitable, equality in formal school which satisfy certain essential norms, standard, and this legislation has been anchored in the belief, the values of equality, social justice, democracy, and creation of just and human society. Now let's talk about the protection against arrest and detention. So Article 22 grants the protection to person who has been like arrested or detained. Detention are like two types, like the punitive and the preventive. Now the punitive detention is basically to punish a person for the offense committed by him after the trial and the conviction in the court, and the preventive detention is basically the detention of a person like without a trial or conviction done by a court, and its purpose is not just to like punish a person for the past offense but to prevent him from committing any other further offense in the future. And this preventive detention is only precautionary measure based on suspicion. Article 22 has two parts. The first, it deals with the cases of ordinary laws, and the second deals with the cases of preventive detention law. Now, the first part basically confers with the Article 22 that a person who has been arrested or detained under ordinary laws has the right to be informed, right to consult, to defend any legal practitioner, then right to be produced before a magistrate within the 24 hours, excluding the journey time, then the right to be released after 24 hours unless a magistrate orders a further detention. And these safeguards are not just available to an enemy alien or the person arrested. The Supreme Court can also like be ruled the arrest and detention in the further in the first part of Article 22 do not just cover under the orders of civil and court arrest, but the failure to pay income tax or deportation of an alien. They can also apply to the act of criminal or quasi criminal nature or to the public interest. Then it actually grants a person who are arrested detained under the preventive detention law, and this protection given to both citizen aliens that had been their detention of person cannot exceed 3 months and, unless an advisory board basically reports a sufficient cause for a extended detention. The board is to consist of judges of a high court. The grounds of detention should also be communicated to the dento, and the dento should also like afforded an opportunity to make the representation against a detention order. Now, Article 22 like also like authorizes the Parliament to prescribe the circumstances, classes of cases in which a person can be detained for more than 3 months under preventive detention. The maximum period for which the person can be detained is any like classes of cases under preventive detention, and the procedure followed by an advisory board in an inquiry. The 44th Amendment Act in 1978 has also reduced the period of detention without like obtaining the opinion of advisory board for 2 to 3 months. And we can see the constitution has divided the legislative power with regard to the preventive detention between the parliament and the state legislature. And the parliament has like exclusive authority to make the law of preventive detention for reasons that are like connected over the defense, foreign affairs, or security of India. So both the parliament as well as the state legislature can concurrently make a law of preventive detention for the reasons that are connected with security of India or maintenance of any public order, supplies, or service essential to the for our country. Now, this law, preventive detention laws, the Parliament has like preventive detention action in 1950, maintenance of internal security, conservation of foreign exchange, and prevention of smuggling activities act. Then we have National Security Act. Then we have like prevention of black market and maintenance of supply of essential commodities act. Then we have like terrorist and disruptive activities, prevention of illicit traffic in narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances act, prevention of terrorism act. Then it is very unfortunate to know that no democratic worlds had made such preventive detention act as part of the constitution as India has done, and it is unknown in US also. It also resorted in Britain only for the First and Second World War, and then India's preventive existed even after British rule. For example, the Bengal State Prison Regulation in 1818 and the Defence of India Act in 1939 is basically provided for preventive detention. Now let's talk about from the right against exploitation. So basically, it talks about the prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. So Article 23 is basically like prohibits inhuman, the beggar, and the similar forms of any forced labor or any contravention that has been done in the provision shall also be like considered as punishable in accordance with the law, and the right is available to both citizen and non-citizen. It not just protects the individual not against the state, but also from the private person. Now, the expression traffic in human basically means like selling and buying out of person, women, or children like goods or commodities, immoral traffic of women or children through prostitution, devdasi, slavery, or any of these acts can also are punishable under that has been made under Immoral Traffic Prevention Act in 1956. Now, the bigar has been like means basically the compulsory work without any remuneration, and it is a peculiar form in Indian system, which the local zamindar sometimes used to force the tenants to render the service without any payments. And in addition to the bigar, the Article 23 prohibits any similar form of forced labor or any bonded labor. Now, the term forced labor basically means like compelling a person to work against his own will. The word force includes not only just physical legal force, but it also like arising from the compulsive of economic circumstances, like the working for less hours than the minimum wage. In this regard, the Bonding Labor System Abolition Act was made in 1976, the Minimum Wages Act, the Contract Labor Act in 1970, and the Equal Remuneration Act in 1976 were made. And the Article 23 also provides an exception to this provision, that it permits the state to impose compulsory service for the public purposes, for as example like the military service or the social service, which is not bound to pay. However, all these like imposing such services, the state is not permitted to make any discrimination on the grounds of caste, class, race, and religion. Now, prohibition of employment of children in factories. So we have like made this important under Article 24, and prohibits the employment of children below the age of 14 years in any factory, mine, or any hazardous activities that are in like construction work, railways, but it does not prohibit the employment in any harmless or innocent work. Now, the Child Labor Prohibition Regulation Act in 1986 is the most important law in this direction, in addition to the Employment of Children Act in 1938, and the Factories Act in 1948, the Mines Act in 1952, the Merchant Shipping Act in 1958, and many other acts has been there to prohibit the employment of children below a certain age. Now, in 1996, we can see the Supreme Court basically directed the establishment of Child Labor Rehabilitation Welfare Fund, in which they were offending employers should also deposit a fine of rupees 20,000 for each child employed by him, and it also like issued certain direction for improvement of education, health, and nutrition of child. Now, the Commission for Protection of Child Right Acts in 2005 basically was enacted to provide establishment of National Commission, State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and Children Courts for providing with the speedy trial of offensive against the children or violation of child rights. In 2006, this was banned employment of children in domestic servants also and worker under the business establishment of hotel, dhabas, restaurant, shop, factories, and resorts, bars, etc. It warned anyone from employing the children below the age of 14 would be like liable for the persecution or the penal action. Now, let's talk about the Child Labor Amendment Act in 2016. The Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Amendment Act in 2016 amended the Child Labor Prohibition in Act in 1986. It was renamed after the Principal Act of Children and the Adolescents Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act in 1986. Now, the Amendment Act does not just prohibits the employment of children below 14 in all occupation and the processes, but the earlier prohibition that has been applicable to 18 occupation and 65 processes. And further, we can see the Amendment Act not just prohibits the employment of adolescents from 14 to 18 years old in the hazardous occupation that has been like processes, and the Amendment Act has also like introduced a more stringent punishments for those offenders who are doing this, and it is an imprisonment of 6 months to 2 years and fine of 20,000 to 50,000 or both, and in case it has been repeated again and again, then the imprisonment is from 1 year to 3 year. So we have like covered everything in this video. So if you really like my video, you can like, subscribe, and share.